Welcome to the Misophonia Podcast. This is episode 5. My name's Adil Ahmad, and I have misophonia. This week I'm talking to Kristen, who's living in Florida, actually not too far from a place called Mar-a-Lago. This was a really fun conversation, despite being about our hatred of certain sounds. Kristen's a really talented singer, and so we talk about some experiences she's had in professional recording studios. We talk about some other unusual things, like how she sometimes uses ASMR to go to sleep. Talk about relationships and her miso origin story, which is actually not about her family. Now, for all the new folks who are listening, that noise you're hearing in the background is brown noise that I've added to help mask certain trigger sounds. I edit the show to take out any obvious triggers and also do some EQing, but that brown noise is added to kind of just help add some background if your environment is noisy. If you want to support the podcast, there is a bunch of swag I've got on our website at shop.misophoniapodcast.com. There's shirts, backpacks, mugs, socks, even an embroidered apron if you're planning to do some cooking over the holidays. 100% of the proceeds go to help produce the show and to reach more misophones and also to support research for misophonia. Alright, enough of that. Let's get started with my conversation with Kristen. So welcome, Kristen. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So tell me a little bit about you. I usually kind of like to ask, where you're located, and let's start with that.
I'm in Florida right now. I'm from Ohio, but I currently live in a much better state in Florida.
Okay, cool. And so are you working? You're a student?
No, I'm not a student. I want to go back to school, but I am working right now. I'm a nanny.
Okay, great. Oh, interesting. So you kind of, I work from home, and I kind of love working from home. So I'm guessing that I guess that has its pros and cons.
Yeah, it's not too bad right now. It's actually just for my new niece, so it's for a year, and I love everything about it. But I am kind of missing getting back into the regular world again.
Were you ever in an office environment?
I was not. I used to be a makeup artist, and I also was bartending in really high-end restaurants for very rich people for a long time.
Oh, wow. In Florida or in Ohio?
Yep, in Florida, actually, right down the street from Mar-a-Lago.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was going to say, when I asked that, I was like, Florida versus Ohio for rich people. I would imagine you were probably doing that in Florida.
Yes.
So how long have you had misophonia then? Curious.
I had it before there was a name to it. I remember being maybe 9 years old and being really irritated with all of that. So I want to say it started around then. I definitely have it almost as far as back as I can remember eating dinner with my family.
So I was going to ask, who were your first triggers? And like a lot of people, it's probably your parents are on the dinner table.
Actually, I kind of know exactly why it started. It wasn't my parents. My parents, they actually have really good manners when they eat. It was a family friend kind of that I really didn't like at all. I thought he was a really mean person. And when he would yell, he would be chewing gum at the same time. He always had gum. So I think I kind of associated these negative feelings with gum chewing. And so then everything kind of bothered me after that. So when I had dinner with my family, they all had manners, but you slip up every once in a while. And when they slipped up, then it started to really bother me.
Got it. And so that other family member, that was the kind of around 9 years old. That's the person that kind of first triggered you around that age.
Yeah, it was actually a friend's parent, but it was my really close friend, so it was like family. Gotcha. But I just didn't like him, and I thought he was a bad person. So, yeah. Did
it affect how you kind of hung out with your friend then? And I'm curious how you handled it at that age, because it's fairly young.
Not really so much. I mean, I would try and go over her house when he wasn't there, but that wasn't so much because of the gum. It was just because I just didn't like him, period.
Got it. Yeah, yelling at kids or yelling in general around kids that age is a little bit disturbing anyways. So you just associate with him, this is a mean person, and I'm kind of annoyed by the mean person and the sound he makes.
I didn't really realize this until a few years ago. It kind of made me realize that he was the cause of it. But I think so whenever he would be flipping out, I would kind of be thinking how stupid this was and how annoying he was.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I associated the sound with annoying. And I didn't realize this until later. I just remember there were times where he would be standing near me and chewing this gum, and I wanted to run.
Ah. So he wouldn't even be yelling. It had complete transfer to the sound of chewing
Yeah,
the
but it
gum.
it was
Yeah.
weird because nobody else bothered me chewing gum until, the following
Mm.
years after that. So I know it definitely stemmed from him.
And then so it stemmed from him, and then it moved on to I guess the family setting. That's kind of when you're in an enclosed space.
Yeah.
And gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
for sure.
Okay, that makes sense. Do you have any siblings too, or
Yeah, I do. I have a brother who's 3 years younger than me.
okay? And did he was he a source of any issues too, or
No,
mainly your parents?
no,
Yeah,
yeah, my whole family, I mean, we were we were taught manners, so everybody
yeah,
chewed with their mouth closed. I didn't really have an issue. I mean, I know he was a kid, so,
yeah.
like I said, there were times where he would make mistakes or my parents would slip up, but even without me, my parents would always make sure just to tell them like or tell him, chew with your mouth closed, have
Mm,
manners. So I didn't really have too many issues with family, but when they did freak out, I mean, when they did mess up, I couldn't help but kind of freak out, and they
did
they
you act
just
out? Yeah.
no, I was a good
Oh,
kid.
good. Yeah.
I would just get really frustrated, and I would just keep reminding, like, chew with your mouth closed, please chew with your mouth closed, stop making that
Mm,
noise, and they didn't really understand, especially because it wasn't a thing, and it wasn't a thing back then, and I was
right.
brand new to it, so they would just kind of be like, just ignore it, and they couldn't understand that I couldn't ignore it.
Did it affect your school or anything? Because you were obviously in school around that time.
No, not in grade school. In high school, yeah, but not in grade school.
Ah, so in high school, like in class or like in exams, exams, I guess I've heard a lot that, yeah, in big exam environments, it could be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, in grade school, kids weren't eating in classrooms. In
Right.
high school, the girls would have gum. I went to an all-girls school. They would have gum, or like during lunch when we would sit around. And I don't know, I never noticed people eating when we were at lunch when we were younger. But
Younger,
during,
yeah.
yeah, high school years, if people were chewing, a certain way, I'd leave the table or go sit with different friends or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, this thing definitely it seems to kick in a lot during middle school. So I would imagine that once it's in the kind of, it's in its full form by the time you're in high school.
Oh
So you probably
yeah,
notice it more then.
for sure.
And so when did you realize it had a name? I think you said maybe a few years ago or so.
Yeah, a few years ago. I can't remember if I found it or if someone sent me something, but I
Mm,
know for like the past 6 or 7 years, maybe 5 or 6 years, there's been articles going around saying,
yeah.
if you hate chewing, you have misophonia. And I would get sent that by 400 people a day. So it was
Okay.
probably something like that. I can't remember if I found it or if someone sent it to me or if I just came across it somewhere, But yeah, it was definitely the last few years.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have seen those articles with somebody holding their ears, some stock
Yes,
photo and stuff.
exactly.
And so a lot of people send it to you. So I'd imagine at some point between high school and now, it's all, somehow all your friends know, like it's been a recurring, a common thing for you.
Yeah, I would say not all, well, all my friends know, but not everyone
Mm,
that I'm around knows because there's this thing that people tend to do when you tell them that you have this problem. They say, "Does this bother you?" And then they start making the noise. And I want to just knock people out when they do that. That bothers me for some reason more than if I were just to catch them chewing with their mouth open. So, like, when I start a new job or something, I don't tell people what it is. I kind of just wait until, I'm closer with them or like we're in a situation outside of work, hanging out where they've actually become my friend. And I don't
yeah.
tell them, I don't just offer that information up if they're eating or something, I talk about it. But I kind of see it as I can't fix it. I can't treat it. There's no like treatment or cure for it as far as I know. And I'm the type of person that everything is funny to me. There's humor in everything. That's how I cope,
Hmm.
so I make fun of myself for it. My friends all make fun of me for it without actually triggering me. So yeah, so I kind of just I laugh about it and I tease myself about it in front of my friends and everything, but I make sure that they know you can't do this around me. Or if you do it around me and I walk away from you, don't be surprised, don't be hurt.
Yeah, I've also tried to in recent years turn to just dousing stuff in humor to try to. It's not 100% cure, but
It helps.
it's an experiment. Yeah, it's an experiment at least, and it does help in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
But but then of course people take it and think that they can joke about it, and it's not quite the same
No.
when other people try
No,
to
like
instigate something.
you can make fun of me for it as long as you don't make that sound. When you make the sound, then we're gonna
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah, exactly. Then you've crossed the line. It's interesting. I don't know if you went. Did you go to any of the conventions at all?
No, I didn't even know that
Uh,
was a thing.
yeah, I didn't know until a couple of years ago, but yeah, a lot of us get to. I mean, it's like a couple hundred of us get together, and a lot of it is the sessions where we hear about research and treatments and stuff are great, but it's like all the hanging out in the lounges or at the bars or restaurants after where we're joking with each other about it. It helps a lot, I have to say.
Oh
So
yeah.
um so do you speaking of that, do you know anyone else who has it near
Um,
you?
not no, I don't. I get a lot of people that so like
Say they are annoyed or something,
yeah,
or
like I told you,
yeah.
all my friends in the past and everyone I grew up with knows about it. I don't really introduce it to new people yet, but I get messages all the time from my friends on Facebook, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I was at the DMV today and this person was chewing gum and it made me think of you
Mm,
and it drove me crazy." And a lot of people kind of identify with it, but then I'm always kind of breaking it down like, well, there's a difference between being irritated by it and going into a
yeah.
full-blown panic attack and having a fight or flight response. So I haven't met anybody that actually freaks out like that. There's a couple people that will tell me, well, I'm only irritated by it, and then every once in a while I have someone else that says, no, like I'm just like you, I freak out, but I'm not around them to see if it's really true or not.
Yeah, usually if you know
Yeah.
that there's a difference. And you almost don't even have to like communicate it verbally. It's just like, yeah, you just kind of know.
Yeah.
Do you have visual triggers too that go along with it? That was a common theme this I thought recently in the past year, is that a lot of visual triggers people are talking about.
Yeah, it actually didn't start until maybe 6 or 7 years ago because I'm 34 now, so I've had it for a long time.
Yeah.
But in the past like 5 or 6 years, I can't take seeing someone chew gum. I don't care if you're 15 rows away from me at a concert or something and I can't hear you. I can't see that jaw movement going because I know I'm gonna hear the sound at some point, or I think I'm gonna hear the sound at some point. Um, I don't have like I only have certain triggers. I'm really not as bad as I don't have it as bad as some other people do, where they're annoyed by a lot of things. I'm only annoyed
Hmm.
by a handful of things. I'm annoyed by them horribly,
Yeah.
but like it's any sound with the mouth, so anything that has to do with eating, gum, like sniffling, smacking, and then nail biting bothers me. And then this one's kind of weird, but
That's
hearing,
a big one for visuals, the
yeah,
nail biting, but yeah.
yeah, that's exactly why I said it. And then hearing music come through the walls, like bass or something, or hearing a
Oh,
sound in the
interesting.
background that you don't know where it's coming from, it bothers
Yeah.
me. But yeah, as far as visuals, like the nail biting one is a big thing for me. It drives me crazy too.
Yeah, scratching the face. I mean, I guess there's no sound there, but yeah, um, you feel like it's going to go towards the mouth any second. Um,
Yeah.
interesting. So okay, sounds like you have these people are generally. It seems like you have a lot of friends who, for one reason or another, want to bring it up with you,
Hmm.
whether it's to feel concerned or to feel like they're in the know, they're observant about things around them too, or so you kind of tell people. Did the nanny job kind of come maybe even, I don't know, maybe subconsciously out of like just being sick of being around a lot of people? Like, I guess you're working at a bar. I guess you can't really. There's a lot of sounds there, I'm imagining. Um,
Yeah. Um,
um, I
no.
don't know if you kind of evolved towards a let's just kind of work in a house for a while.
No, but so when I was bartending, I'm not, like I said, I'm not annoyed by a whole lot of things. So I didn't
Oh,
have
okay.
any
Mhm.
issues when I was bartending in a restaurant that was noisy. I actually liked it. The nanny thing was just because I lived 3 hours away from my brother and I really wanted to be around my niece for a year. So that's literally the only reason that I'm a nanny now. However, I did kind of pick up a side job working at a wine store, and I do
Mm,
samples a lot, and people smack their lips when they do the samples to try and really
of
get that
course.
taste, and it drives me crazy. But when I was looking for a second job, there are certain things that I stay away from. So when I'm looking for a second job, I know I can handle working in a restaurant because if I'm serving, when I drop the food off, I can run away. I don't have to stand there and watch them eat. If I was bartending, it's so loud, bartending, that you don't really hear that kind of thing. But I know I can't work in a call center or something because if I get stuck next to a person that has
Yeah,
gum, there's nothing I can do. I did do the office thing when I was 19 for 2 years, and I could hear people chewing gum in the other rooms, and I would sit there and cry at the front because I couldn't get away from it.
gotcha.
So
Was that an open environment at all, or was it just closed offices?
no, it was I was the receptionist, and
Ah,
then once you got out of the lobby, everybody had their own private office. But there was one little section of cubicles where like 4 or 5 people sat together, and I could hear their gum and their smacking and everything. It was just on the other side of a really thin wall. Um, but yeah, so when I didn't choose the nanny position because of that. I don't seek out
hmm.
jobs to get away from it. I just know what I can't do. Any place that I'm going to be close to another person without being able to walk around and move, I know it's probably
Yeah.
not a good idea.
So you grew up in Ohio and now you live in Florida. Do you notice like, I don't know, geographically or culturally any different? I know it's still all in the United States, but like,
Mhm.
any differences between Midwesterners versus, Florida people in terms of their sounds? Like, which would be a better state to live in? Sounds like you like Florida right now,
I
but
love Florida.
from Missouri.
Yeah, I love how diverse Florida is. But so different cultures. I can't remember which one, but I know there's an Asian culture, for instance, that smacking your lips is a sign of appreciation for the food. I used to
Right.
work in a Japanese restaurant, and I learned that after I would, and this was actually in Ohio though, but I learned that when we closed from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and our awesome owner made everybody food, I had to bring headphones with me because everyone was smacking their lips and slurping the soup and everything. And I was horrified at first until I did a little research and learned that that's, a certain way to show that the food is good or whatever. So that was my experience in Ohio. But down in Florida, it's more diverse. So I feel like I could possibly run into that a little bit more because there's way more cultures, different cultures down here and everything. But I'm really good at not putting myself in those positions. So I don't really run into
Right.
things that make it too much of a difference in either state.
So so yeah, okay. So you mentioned headphones. Yeah. So other than other than running away, well, let me put it that way. I'll edit this part, but
No, running away works.
um, yeah. Okay, yeah. There's really no other way to describe it. But other than running away, yeah. What are some other coping mechanisms? So I personally have like yeah headphones, but I have like 3 or 4 different form factors of headphones. Over the ear, in
Yeah.
ear, wired, Bluetooth. What are your go-tos? And your backup.
Um, I really,
That would be the runaway, I guess. But
yeah, excuse me, I really don't have a lot, honestly. I mean, it's headphones for sure. Like right now I have on my huge ones that cover my ears. And then I
hmm.
have my, my little iPhone ones or whatever, but I wear the huge ones sometimes even to sleep at night because right now I used to live by myself, and right now to nanny I'm living with my family.
You're right.
And I can hear the music through the walls sometimes at night. So I keep my headphones to block those out. When I travel or fly, I definitely use these huge headphones to cover my ears.
Yep.
I always have I have a white noise app, because sometimes I love music so much. I sing and everything. Like literally singing is my entire life. But
Ah.
I know, which is really weird actually. But there's there's times where I don't want to listen to music. I just want to relax. So I have white noise apps, that I could just put on in the background if I'm flying or something. But other than that, I've gotten really good at just removing myself from situations or not putting myself in situations to begin with. I don't go to the movies ever because I can't handle people behind me eating
Yep.
popcorn, and I know I can't get away from it. You know,
Movies, it's like yeah, I mean, well, concerts I guess are loud, but yeah,
yeah, I
like
go to
theater
concerts.
or anything like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
concerts would be great. I mean, it's just a lot of noise. It's
Yeah.
just the conversations at a concert kind of annoy
Oh
me.
yeah.
But
Yeah. I
why
get
are you even here?
that.
But
Right. Um, yeah, so
So white noise apps, you use white noise. Like I'll use like a Spotify playlist or something. I'm just curious if are there any specific apps that you would recommend?
I download them randomly, honestly, because
Mm.
I have about like 15,000 pictures on my phone right now and I have no space. So I'll download them and then I'll delete them and then I'll forget which ones I download. But a lot of times it's the apps that'll have like thunderstorms or something. And actually it's because I kind of mentioned it and now that we're talking about apps, this is really strange. I thought it would be
Hmm.
interesting to you. So I sing and misophonia translates to the hatred of sound. But for a
Yeah.
while, my whole career was based off of singing and music and listening and everything. And then also, I actually listen to ASMR sometimes to help myself fall asleep at night. Which is, do you know what that is?
Yeah, that's very. It was that like very close up sounds. I
Yeah,
haven't listened to it a lot because I'm kind of afraid of
yeah,
what I'll hear. But so it's
you
kind of
should
the
be.
yeah. Okay, got it. It's basically right. That's what it seemed like. It was like all triggers, kind of potentially.
Yeah, it's
Right.
just
Yeah.
any, and it's which is weird because it calms me down. There's people that eat close to the microphone or they do tapping
Hmm.
sounds and they crinkle paper. And eating close to the microphone, that's the one thing I can't listen to. I will break my computer over it. But all the tapping stuff and the crinkling, that actually puts me to sleep, which is really weird considering if somebody was doing it in front of my face, I might knock them out.
Right. And so it's the crinkling could kind of be like a white noise. You think that's what it might be, or is this something different
Oh, that
where
could be
it's
it. No, yeah, that could probably be it.
potentially? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be putting so all these shows are gonna be putting like some kind of a background sound just to kind of like
Yeah.
just to kind of be unique in terms on for a podcast, but also have some background noise. So I'm probably not gonna put crinkling sounds, but you mentioned thunderstorms earlier, so maybe this will be the thunderstorm episode or something like
There you
that.
go.
But that's interesting. I never heard ASMR as a treatment. Yeah, that's curious. Yeah, that's interesting. So were you in a band? I mean, what kind of capacity were you singing in?
So I used to just sing for fun. I put up
Hmm.
videos on YouTube and they got like 2 billion views. And
Dang.
then and then I was doing karaoke contests and stuff at home and I was winning all this
Oh,
money.
great. Yeah.
And then I
Whoa. Okay. Okay. I'm a big karaoke fan.
I
I
know it's
haven't won anything. I've spent a lot of booze money on it. Okay.
a lot of it
Cool.
went right back to the beer, don't worry.
Yeah.
But I actually got found online by a really popular R&B group from like the late 90s, and they flew me down to Atlanta a few times and they put me in the studio with different people to see how I worked. They ended up offering me a small deal to their label, which was a smaller label. I didn't sign it just because there were some terms in there, that I wasn't okay with.
Yeah.
And I ended up moving to Atlanta and just trying to do things on my own. So yeah, I was in the studio a lot. I actually got stuck in the studio a few times with people who had gum. That was one of the
Hmm.
worst days of my life.
I've worked in anechoic chambers before, like yeah, where that it's so quiet that you can feel your vibrations in your body. It's just
Yeah.
well, I mean music studio is a little different, but
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, when I'm up there recording, and then I sing a verse, and then the producer, whoever has gum, when they talk to you when you're in the booth, they're talking to you through the headphones, so like
yeah,
they're right there in your ear chewing this gum and trying to give you direction. And I remember specifically one day where I just didn't do my best, and I was kind of off. And when we were driving home, their manager said to me, like, "Are you okay? Something isn't right." And I was like, I am so easy to work with. Everything is go with the flow for me, but I need to ask one thing from you. I cannot have people with gum in the studio. And I had to tell her about it. And I was like, because
yeah.
you see what happens, I completely shut down and I panic. And I had to sit through 7 hours of that today. So I really, really need you to change some rules. So, that's the only thing that I'll ask of you. And she was perfectly fine with it. But it was almost like kind of embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes when I tell people about it, I'll be like,
Yeah.
I'm just warning you, I'm crazy. You know what I mean? Like, we'll fight or you adjust to this because if I can't get out of this situation, there's going to be a problem.
Yep. No, I think everyone listening to this understands that, and yeah, it's interesting. Well, I bet in the music industry they've heard far crazier demands. So
Yeah, that's
that was
true.
probably the least of their.
True.
Do you still have your YouTube videos online?
I do. I don't
Okay.
make them
Well, maybe.
anymore, but
Yeah.
I mean, I post some things on Instagram here and there. But yeah, the YouTube videos are
Hmm.
still up there.
Well, maybe in the show notes after. Well, I can add some links to them
Sure.
if if you don't mind people checking. I mean, because I'm sure we'd love misophonia people would love to hear what we're all doing. So
Oh yeah, of course.
yeah. So well, holidays are coming up. I don't know when this is going to air because there's so many people that want to do interviews. Do you have any like tips? Are you going to be seeing your family? Do you have like escape routes and various hiding spots where you're holding headphones and whatnot, like I do?
Pretty much yes to all the above.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, no, right now, so down here in Florida, I only have, 5 or 6 family members. But so I moved to Atlanta in 2013, but I spent, 25 years in Cleveland before that. And that's when I would go to all my family parties, and our parties had like 60, 70 people at them.
Yeah.
And everybody in my family knows how I am. So if I was in a really irritated mood, I would go sit in the other room by myself, and that was fine. They were all fine with it. They knew I wasn't mad or anything like that. Or I was, when it was a day where we did have like a lot of extra people, like boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever, I know I know the chewing habits of literally every person in my life.
Oh yeah, we'd have it all documented in our brains.
Yeah, exactly. So, I would position myself at somewhere in the table where I was around my cousins that I knew weren't going to be like that or something. But yeah, I mean, either just disappear into the other room, and if I can't, just post up by somebody that I know is going to not try and annoy me.
Do you usually eat pretty quickly then? Try to get it all down and then volunteer to wash the dishes and
No, I don't know. I don't really think into it too much like that. Like I said, mostly everybody is pretty respectful of it, and then they try extra hard, So
yeah, well, that's great. That's great that at least everybody knows. So unless you have one or two punks, they're probably generally okay.
Yeah. Well, my whole family, most of us are Italian. I'm kind of loud. I'm kind of, I can be kind of like tough sometimes. And so, at first when I tell people, and not just my family, but my friends, at first when I kind of tell people about it, like I said, I'm laughing, I'm making fun of myself. But then when they try something and I just snap, then they know all right, I'm not going to do this to her.
Yeah. Not going to go there. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't have too many issues with it. I feel like I kind of have it easier than a lot of people because I know how to distance myself. I can distance myself. You know what I mean? I have a lot of people that respect me for it. And finally, ever since a name came out for it, people believe me more now. And they know that it's not something I can just ignore.
Well, hopefully they're hearing some celebrities are talking about it.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned boyfriends and girlfriends. Have you had a relationship with somebody that you've told about this, or has it like?
Yeah.
I've heard weird stuff, so I'm just curious if you want to share what has happened.
Oh yeah,
I've heard good and I've heard weird. Yeah.
I'm an open book. Yeah, I actually have to, especially like when I'm dating someone. If you're going to be around them that much, that's. So last week, actually, for instance, I went out with some guy from Tinder or something like that. And normally when I go out with them, I'll warn them ahead of time. I'll be like, just so you know, I have this thing. Don't chew gum around me. And they don't.
Even before you go out with them, like in the chat, whatever I've never used it, but like okay.
Yeah, I will warn them. Like I said, when I make friends and stuff, I don't really, when I make friends, I usually make them through work or something. So I don't really bring it up there. But if I know I'm going to be in a one-on-one conversation with someone who, potentially is someone that I could date, I'm just going to warn them straight up because they're going to hear about it at one point or another. So I usually warn them. And this one kid I forgot to warn. And when we got to the bar, he was chewing gum, and he was chewing it really badly. And so I tried to kind of ignore it because we were in a really loud bar with music, but then that whole visual trigger thing started happening. And I noticed I wasn't looking at him, and I was looking around, and I felt kind of rude while he was talking to me. So he's in the middle of talking at one point. I'm like, all right, bro, listen, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you got to spit your gum out because you're driving me crazy and your mouth is open and I have this problem. And he thought it was hilarious and he spit it out. And I was like, I don't mean to be crazy or whatever, but it's a big problem. And if you notice, I haven't been looking at you or anything, and it's because it's bothering me. And then that was it, and we got past it. But no, I did date someone for a couple of years that he knew about it from the jump. And then we had dinner one night, and it was really quiet in my apartment because it was just kind of a last minute thing, and we were eating or whatever, and I could tell he was trying really, really hard. And I didn't say anything because he was trying hard. So, if you have your mouth closed and I can hear you chewing, it doesn't bother me because I don't know. I know you're trying. And so
Yeah, I think
trigger.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think it comes down to the fight or flight. If you somehow your brain somehow thinks this is safe, you're
Yeah.
in a safe space, then maybe yeah. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, so he was trying, and like I said, I could hear stuff, but his mouth was closed, so it just didn't bother me. And then at the end of it, he was like, "How did I do? Like, what did you think?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And it's not like I don't think of it until I hear a sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I wasn't really focused on it, and I'm like, "What are you talking about? Do
yeah.
what?"
You're not grading him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he was like, I was trying so hard. Like, I was so scared. I'm so afraid to eat around you. Like, this is why we don't go to dinner. And I was like, you're doing too much. It's okay. I appreciate so much how hard you're trying, but I'm not thinking about it every time we sit down to eat or
yeah,
anything. Like, if you start chewing like a cow, then I'm going to have no choice but to listen. But that's not what I'm focused on. This doesn't run my life. I make adjustments here and there. I don't put myself in certain situations, and I tell people, but I'm not thinking about it every day. I don't think about it until I hear it.
yeah. You chill, we chill. Just don't make
Yeah,
any
right.
sudden movements. Or
Right.
yeah.
But yeah, my friends always joke around with me that, if I meet somebody and they're cool within the first week, we need to go out to dinner. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if he does well, then all right, we can keep going.
Wonder what some good litmus tests would be. Chewing gum, coming in chewing gum is that's a good one. Are there any other are you seeing and you don't have to get into medical stuff. I was curious if you've seen an audiologist or any kind of therapist or are you just kind of self-diagnosing and um, doing self therapy like most of us.
Um, yeah, pretty much. But when I was 18, I did go to a psychologist
Hmm.
and I tried to tell her about it. And so when I was 18, that was in like 2003,
Yeah,
and it
very
wasn't.
early in this. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody knew what it was. And when I told her, I'll never forget her face. She just stared at me like I was a psychopath. And I was so offended. Not like I don't get offended, but you're a psychologist. At least
Yeah,
hide
you
your
should have
confusion.
seen. Yeah, you should have seen. You've heard crazier stuff than
Yeah,
this. I mean,
yeah. And
hmm,
so she didn't understand. I tried to explain it. She didn't understand. She tried to tell me that it was obsessive compulsive disorder.
you're right.
And I was really into psychology back then. And I would read all the time just for fun about different things. And I was like, I don't know, I don't think this really fits into that. And she's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe just try like holding ice when you hear the sound and trying to distract yourself. And I was
Holding ice?
yeah, that was
Oh,
literally my response. I was like, "What?" And she was like, just do things to distract yourself." And then at that point, I just
hmm.
understood. She didn't understand that there is no distracting. You know what I mean? So I get that she was trying to help, but the fact that she was kind of like, what?" Like that was her response. I was like, I'm not even gonna bring this up to anybody professional like ever again.
Yeah. If you're surprised by something, don't look like you're shocked. If you're in
Yeah,
a psycho,
and
if
it's
you're,
not like I
yeah,
told her
like
anything
look it up later.
crazy.
Right, right, right,
Yeah.
right. We could all tell. We all have stuff in our. We have all violent thoughts. So I'm assuming you didn't tell anything. Some of the crazy stuff we can probably tell people.
Right. No, I wasn't even detailed. I was just like, when
Yeah.
people chew like this, I freak out and I want to fight them, but I don't do anything. Like what that's not something
Right. Yeah.
crazy to
Of
hear.
course.
So
Yeah.
so no, I never told anybody else after that. I think I mentioned it to my new doctor, my just family doc, not family doctor, just my, regular physician or whatever. But
Yeah.
she also didn't hear it. This was 3 years ago. She had also never heard of it before.
Yep.
But that was just when I was just being introduced to her and listing, issues that I've had and stuff like that medically. But no, I just kind of, like I said, I just kind of take care of it myself. Like you said, now that I'm older, besides this year, in the past I've been living on my own, and I
Yep.
go to work and I hang out with the same couple friends, and they know better than to do anything. I'm not afraid to call people out, and they don't ever want to be put in that position, and they don't want to
Yeah.
bother me, So I don't really, it's not really a big issue in my life until I meet someone new or I'm stuck in a position where people don't know about it.
So we'll get the links to I guess some of your YouTube stuff and whatnot. Just if you're down for people checking it out, we'll put that in the show notes.
Sure.
But any kind of other last minute things you want to tell? There's going to be a lot of people here listening who've probably been bottling this up for a long time and haven't told anybody and are just kind of listening to it in their earphones. Anything you want to I don't know, tell them from your experiences?
Um,
We covered a lot, I know, but
Yeah. No, I mean, I find for me that actually telling people at some point really helps make things a lot easier. Anytime you have to keep something bottled up, it doesn't feel
yeah,
good. And, people may react a certain way, but I feel like eventually if they start to see what kind of pain and stress that it can cause for you, then they'll kind of understand. So I would just say, talk to people about it if you can and make sure you explain it the right way where it doesn't just sound like, I'm irritated by this. They need to understand that it's actually a problem. It causes a
yep,
physical response in you. But yeah, I would say just try
I,
not to hold it in.
yep. I think we're society. I think is slowly getting to that point. So hopefully
Yeah.
this show will help too.
Mhm.
Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Kristen. This is great. This is fun to listen to you. And good luck with everything.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my chat with Kristen. You can drop me a line anytime at hello@misophoniapodcast.com. I still have lots of stickers I can send. You can just shoot me your mailing address. By the way, if you're liking the podcast, please do leave a review, especially on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. It just helps more people see the podcast in their feed. Look for the Misophonia Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The music again is by Moby, and until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.